Or let's get this party started because we're going to watch a video today. We're going to watch a training. Before we watch the training, I just wanted to kind of share a little bit of the background of this training. And in order to do that, I want to kind of just recap. Some of us may not have been here for all of the sessions. But there's a reason and there's a method and a reason why I am doing the lessons that I'm doing, okay? And remember, we're 6 weeks in now to our personal growth, mindset, and business development trainings. Because we know what? That our business grows to the extent that we grow. We're going to go over the law of the environment today. And, you know, as I prepare lessons nowadays, you know, most of the lessons are from what I'm learning, right? Or what I have learned. And this book I've kind of shared a lot since we've opened the company. In fact, we went through this as a company twice when we first opened. That was like the Bible of growth for me, right? It helped me to see things that I wasn't even aware of. And if you're writing things down, I want you to write this down. That personal growth is just new levels of awareness. Personal growth are new levels of awareness. When Lou and I started out with this, we had a vision. We know we wanted to open up a company, and we were excited about opening up a company. But if we're being honest, some of the things that we thought 4 years ago, almost 5 years ago, are a little different, and they've changed in a good way because of growth and some of the awarenesses that we have now. So just a quick recap. Week 1, we talked about the law of intentionality, that growth doesn't just happen, right? Growth doesn't just happen, it must be intentional. And I believe this so passionately because as I started becoming intentional about it, a lot of change, what I would call transformation, started happening in my life personally, which also led to professionally. Then week 2, we talked a little bit about the law of awareness. And that simply says you must know yourself to grow yourself, right? So in that week, we talked a little bit about blind spots. You know, some of the things that were putting a lid on my growth or putting a lid on my business, I wasn't aware of some of these things. And until I became aware of them, I wasn't able to change them, right? We cannot defeat what we cannot define. So there are some things in our life that kind of hold us back from maybe hitting the goals that we want, maybe achieving our heart's desires. And the law of awareness, a lot of times, helps to show us what areas of life or business that we might need to spend some time or maybe even perhaps doing some change. Then week 3, we jumped into Think and Grow Rich. When to talk about mindset, I wanted you guys to really start to think about what you want, your heart's desire, right? We talked about the statement of desire and what you want. Because when you know what you want, it becomes clearer and easier to put a plan together to get there. If you don't know what you want, it's like getting in your car and driving somewhere without any destination. And then in week 4, for those who are just jumping over, just doing a quick recap of our previous five weeks. Week 4, we talked about, again, that statement of desire. And we talked not only about the statement of desire, but we talked about habits. And what are the habits that you needed to put into your daily agenda to get the results? If you remember, we talked about Your desire plus your habits equal results. And then 2 weeks ago, I shared a little bit of experience about Lori and I's turning point experience, where we were at for 3 days. And then we talked about priority management again. And if it sounds like I talk about priority management a lot, it's because I do. And if I talk about something a lot, because there's a secret in that, right? Our success is tied to our daily agenda. You show me your daily agenda, you show me your calendar, and I'll tell you if you're going in the right direction to achieve your goals. We talked about a challenge that we had, right? What you really want shows up in 2 places. You remember what that is? It shows up in your date book, which is, we talked about your priority management, and in your checkbook. Investing in yourself. Are you investing your time? Where you investing your money? And then I gave you a challenge. The challenge was, if you haven't written out your goals, that's the first thing. You should write them down, right? And for those that may be struggling with just even writing your goals down, I want you to know that I struggled to write goals down for a while, right? Because you just don't, I didn't know what, I look at what somebody else was doing. Somebody did 10 million. So that was my goal. I wanted to do 10 million. But then when I started really understanding the why, like why I needed to do what I needed to do, it made it crystal clear for me what I wanted to write down as far as a goal. So, give yourself some grace, but all this knowledge is great, but the secret sauce is in the application. Remember, we talk about mindset here, right? Your mindset. If you have your goals in front of you and you look at them every day, remember the statement of desire said, write that statement of desire out and do it. Read it twice a day. And for anybody that wants, accountability, feel free to, just kind of raise your hand. But I'm going to ask a question. Who did their statement of desire? Did anybody do the statement of desire? Does anybody have their goals written out? Are you looking at your goals every day? Anybody?
I have my goals written out, but I did not do my statement of desire yet. So still got to get on that. And I actually should write that down, that I need to do that.
Good.
So I don't forget.
Good. Anicia?
I do have them written down. I don't look at them as much as I should, but they are written down, so that's a start.
Awesome. And you know what? Thank you for just sharing that and being open and honest and vulnerable, because I don't read it every day either.
Yeah.
I tell you guys all the time, it's progress, not perfection. And what I realized,
Exactly.
For so many years, because I didn't do it, I would quit. Because I didn't do the application, it doesn't work. And we go back to, it doesn't work. And then you go back to doing things the same way. But when you take action, you take one step in that direction, you build on that. That's why I say progress, not perfection. The fact that you guys are showing up here every week, that's spending an hour of your time, and you're learning and you're growing, and it will grow your business if you start doing more of the application, the action steps. So thank you guys for sharing that. If you haven't done it, put it on your calendar, 15 minutes a day. Just start with 15 minutes a day of thinking time. What do I want? What I want to do? What do I want my life to look like? What are the goals that I want to, how much money do I want to make? You can write down whatever comes to your mind. Whatever your desires are, write those things down. So today, I think we have a little bit of a treat. This is I would say, one of the most impactful laws that I can, all the laws are really, really good. But you guys hear me say this a lot as well. Your environment is critical to development. And today we're going to have a little treat. This video, this training from John Maxwell, it's about 30 minutes. So we're going to get ready to start that right now. And I want you to, if you can, turn your phone off, get rid of all distractions. You have a handout, play full out. Write down the answers to these questions. So I want to talk, before we start this video, I just want to talk a little bit about growth. And I already said that growth is all about new levels of awareness. And so here's a little bit of a story about my journey and the growth process. So, I worked at Century 21 for the first 13 years of my career. I learned a lot at Century 21 about how to become a good real estate professional. And after 13 years, when I left there, I was one of the top agents in the company. But looking back on it, I left that company because I outgrew that environment. I outgrew that environment. I was a single agent trying to grow a team. There was no other teams in the office. I started realizing that my main time should be about getting the clients. And so I wanted to build a team, getting recruited a lot. KW started really having a lot of teams. I switched to KW. I wanted to learn more. And I needed to grow the team because I thought I wanted to get more of a balanced life, right? Doing 50 transactions a year by yourself was a lot, and it was just kind of burning me out. And I thought I wanted a more balanced, but I also wanted to produce more volume in transactions, and we did. And in 5 years there, almost 5 years, we became one of the top. I grew one of the top producing teams at KW. And the more that I grew, the more I desired more. I wanted the business to continue to grow, but I also realized that the amount of business that I was now doing was creating opportunities for other people. And I learned that because I switched my environment. So now fast forward that to today, right? We opened up this office in 2019. Realty One Group was opened in 2019. We were intentional, very intentional about 4 things that we wanted for this company. We wanted to be professional. We wanted to, and we learned that, right? Like I share that all the time. I learned from Lou, from Sue DeChambeau, from Bev Altimos. I learned how to be a professional by being around professionals. And I thought that was a key to my success. We wanted to serve our clients at a high level, was number 2. We wanted to make sure we were good at customer service. We wanted to be in company that practiced integrity. Right? We want to always do the right thing. And the 4th thing was we wanted to have a growth environment. We wanted a company where real estate professionals can grow personally and professionally to be, do, and have all they desired to have. And I think that we've done a pretty good job of doing that. And all the while, I may not have realized it at the time, but a lot of it had to do with environment. At every stage of growth, at every level, you don't want to be the biggest fish in the pond. Right? So you want to be in an environment where people are ahead of you, but also some people are behind you that you can help as well. So this lesson today, I was going through it over the weekend, and it kind of made me think about, so much. Paul teaches all of us, all the clients that he has, that the content of your life becomes the curriculum of your evolution. So most of the things, almost 99% of what I'm training on these Tuesdays or any of the trainings that I do is what I'm learning. It's what I'm learning. And not only am I learning, it's given me the results that I desire. So that's why I want to share them with you. So this lesson, right, this came out of this book. And you know, when I first started, this was the first book. And not only did I get the book, I got the audio book. And then there was a video series for $800. And at that point, I was just all in. I was just trying, I'd buy anything that I thought, you know, I just became like a personal growth junkie. So I bought the videos, and I'm glad that I bought that training, because we used them several times. But this is a really, really good one. I think it could speak to all of us at different levels. So this is about 30 minutes. It'll give us about another 10, 15 minutes at the end to kind of talk about it. But let's just watch this video, this training. John is actually going to teach on the law of environment. Again, if you can, you know, get rid of all distractions, get tuned into this. This is a really, really good teaching. Law of the environment. I need to be able to be the host to share. Who's the host? Would that be Hannah? I'm sorry. Give me 1 second. I'm not the host. Can you see who the host is? Or Lou?
I'm trying to check. It doesn't, I can't see, it doesn't like say who's the host.
It's not me. It's not me.
It says
It
like there's a button for me to claim host. So I don't know,
Can you
but I don't have a key, so I'm not the host.
claim host?
I can't, it asked me for a key, like a code.
Okay, hold on a second. Let me see something.
You know what? Hold on a sec.
Is this in our Restore Zoom account, or is it in my account? The meeting set up in that, which account is it set up in?
It's set up in ROG Restore.
Okay, and I went in through,
Somebody just needs to put the sign in button. Somebody just needs to sign in, I think. Ouch. Where it says
I'm
claim
guessing that's
host.
what Lou's doing right now.
I'm signing in right now. Let me just see. Sorry about that. All right, somebody is the host now.
All right, hold on a sec.
That's you, Lou.
Yeah, I just logged out and logged back in. I think I can make you the host. Hold on.
Everybody still with us?
Give me a minute.
Still with us?
Participants, I am now the host, and now you are now the host.
Cool.
Go ahead. You're good.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yep.
Here's sound. I'm getting better at technology. All right, can you guys see that? Good?
I want to talk to you now about the law of environment. And the law of environment just says that growth thrives in conducive surroundings. And this law became a part of my life because when I started growing intentionally, I was not in a healthy environment for growth. I belonged to an organization that was very closed, very conservative, quite negative. And then I realized very quickly that if I was going to grow, I was going to have to change my environment. I was going to have to get out of where I was and get into something that was a lot more more conducive. In fact, Mark Cain said, and this is a great quote, he said, the first step towards success is taken when you refuse to be captive of the environment that you find yourself in. In other words, I refuse to let this environment keep me captive. I refuse to stay here. I'm going to get somewhere where I can really develop and grow myself. And I had, when I started growing, I had two influencers in my growth. Kurt Kampmeyer, who basically said, John, if you're going to really grow, you got to be intentional. It's not going to be automatic. And a wonderful friend, elderly friend now today, named Elmer Towns. I affectionately call him E.T. And for in my middle 20s, 30s, 40s, for 20 years, he really mentored me. He really helped me to get into that kind of growth environment that I needed. And I remember one day he was teaching me on that. And he said to me, he said, John, he said, let me share with you some things that will help you really stay in a growth environment. And here's what he shared. He said, first of all, spend time with great people. If you're going to really grow, get around the people that are where you want to be or are growing to where you want to be, but get around great people. And that was a tremendous moment in my life, because what that meant for me, because I wasn't in a growth environment, was that I was going to have to basically change most of the people I was spending time with. And it was very difficult for me to do that. There was a very tough transition for me, because I'm very relational and I have great friendships, and it was very difficult for me. But what he helped me with was the fact that you will only be as good as the people that you hang around with. And, I love to play golf. When I play with a golfer that is better than me, I usually play a little bit better golf. When I play with a golfer that's not quite as good as me, I slack off just a little bit. And it's true that getting around the right people has a lot to do with our growth. The second thing he's saying is, he said, not only spend time with great people, he said, visit great places. He said, if you really want to grow, get an environment where you go to places that will help bring greatness out of you. And I can still remember, I was sitting down with another friend, Lon Woodrum, and I was talking to him about great places. And I'm just a kid, I'm saying, and he was elderly, and I looked up to him and I said, Lon, I said, where would be great places for me to visit? That just shows you how rookie I was, to help me with the great places. And I'll never forget, he said, John, he said, I love to visit presidential libraries. He said, I find that when I visit that, it really stretches me. And so I made a commitment to start visiting presidential libraries. And Margaret and we've been to every presidential library in America. And I just give it a whole day, and I just read and take notes, and it inspires me, and it's just tremendous. In fact, just the other day I was up in Boston, and I went back to the John F. Kennedy Library. I've been to it 4 times, and I went through it, and the 4th time was the best time. I said, my gosh, I've been here 4 times, and it's what I call layered learning. You learn, and then you learn some more, and you learn some more, and it's called layered learning. And I thought, you always learn more when you're already acquainted with what they've done. And it was just wonderful. But I've been there. But he said, visit great places. And so on my list are a lot of places to visit, to be, that'll bring greatness out of you. And the third thing he said, read great books. He said, just become just an avid reader of great books. And one of the things that one of the decisions I made, and I don't normally talk about this because I don't think this is right for everybody. And sometimes I think it's not good to teach things that can't apply to everybody. But I made a decision when I was very young not to read fiction. And I think fiction's great. So I'm not anti-fiction, so don't get upset here. Some of you are glaring at me right now. I just don't have time to read fiction and read other stuff. It's just a time issue with me. And I think many great books are fiction. Great. So I'm not anti-fiction, but I just said, okay, I'm going to have to read in certain areas. And I even developed my reading to be, it had to be in the area of leadership. It had to, of course, I'm a person of faith, so it has to be spiritual. It needs to be some spiritual stuff, but it has to be in the area of thinking. It has to be in the area of building and developing people. And so I just pretty well kind of listed about a half a dozen areas which I just always read. And once you get into good books, and once you get into really good authors, then stay right with them. Stay with them. There are certain books, when the book comes out, you just buy it because of the author. You know what I'm saying? It's just because it's going to be a good book. And And one of the advices I got as a young leader, as a young writer, is you're only as good as your last book. So, you know, don't ever take your reader for granted. Don't ever think, boy, I'm selling a lot of books, so I'll just kind of slack off on this one. And, you know, you're only as good as your last book. But he said, read great books. And then he said, attend great events. He said, go and attend the great events, the things that are going to, again, just be amazing for you and help you. And I've really made a practice of that. I watch very carefully where the great events are going to be and what's going to happen, where there may be history events. I don't want to be there, or maybe good leadership conferences. One of the things that we do every year in our the John Maxwell Company is we have an event every year called Exchange, and it's my favorite event, and it's for about 120 people, and we spend 3 days together. This year we'll spend it in Dallas. Last year in San Francisco, and all we do is leadership experiences. And we just have some phenomenal things that we take them through and experience. And what's kind of fun is it's a small group, and I get to stay with them for 3 days. But it's a great leadership event. And he said, John, make sure that you do that. And then the last thing he said was nourish yourself. Learn to nourish yourself. I think that's another way of learn to motivate yourself. Learn to, and what he taught me there was that if you're going to be great, you have to be great consistently. And if you're going to be great consistently, you have to constantly motivate yourself consistently. And you have to nourish your soul and your spirit. And so I began to write down what I would call nourishment centers in my life. And there's a bunch of them, and I don't have time to teach all of them, but I mean, things like, go to music for a moment. What songs lift me? You know, get you, you know, put them somewhere. And the nourishment centers have got to be quickly accessible to you so that when you're needing to have maybe an hour of nourishment, you don't have to wait a long time for it, have to go a long place for it. It's got to be real accessible stuff. So, but what songs inspire you, or thoughts? What thoughts speak to you? I mean, you know, what quotes speak to you? You know, in my iPhone, I keep my good quotes in there. Keep my songs that inspire me there. Friends, what friends encourage you? I mean, who are the people that when you just kind of need a shot that you can go to them? Recreation, what recreates you and helps you to what you know? What do you do? Nothing does that for me like playing golf. I love to play. I don't get to play a lot, but I love to. And when I finish playing, it's just there's something it does for me. But you know, giftedness. What gifts activate you? What kind of gifts do you have that activate you and help you to do better? Memories. What, you know, you keep your memory bank really fresh. What are some of the things that you've done and been with that just are fantastic? In fact, one of the things I really work on is when I've had a memory of somebody, I make sure to kind of try to catalog that. And when I'm going to be with them the next time, guess what we do? We talk about what we did the last time. And it just connects you so with people. But those are nourishment. You know, what books change me? I mean, it could go on and on. The point being, you really want to nourish yourself. And if you can do that, when people all the time, one of the questions they ask me all the time is, who motivates you? And I don't mean this unkindly. Nobody motivates me. I don't mean that nobody motivates me. A lot of people, I hear them and they encourage me, or their book encourages me. And so it's not that people don't motivate me. It's that I read my lips, never look to anyone to motivate me. I never get up any day and say, oh my gosh, I just need somebody to motivate me. Many years ago, I settled the issue of motivating. I motivate myself. And I settled the issue of inspiration. So people say, well, John, you write so many books. How do you get inspired to write books? I said, oh, it's very simple. Every morning at 5:30, I get inspired to write books. Because every morning at 5:30, I write. I just wake up and say, it's time to be inspired. And guess what? The very fact that I do it inspires me. The very fact. And so, but get those nourishment centers in this environment. Law of environments are very important. You got to constantly keep yourself in an environment that's conducive for growth. I was in Canada a couple of years ago, and I was speaking for a bank, ATB Financial, and pretty big bank throughout Canada. And so I was doing a leadership conference for like maybe the top 500 leaders in their organization. And they had a big banner up front that said, "Why we lead." And I wrote it down because I thought it was so good. You know, why do we lead? And here's what they said: to bring out the very best in others for outstanding results. That's why we lead. We want to bring the best out of you. We want to bring the best out of others. And the result of that is that good things begin to happen. And I thought that's a good reason for leading, to bring out the very best in others. And what it caused me to do for a moment is it caused me to ask myself, okay, who brings the best out of me? And who do I bring the best out of others? Would somebody be saying John Maxwell brings the best out of me every day? I mean, would I be that kind of an inspirational leader? So let's talk about a growth environment for a moment. I shared with you that I was not in a growth environment. The organization that I was a part of, their whole kind of theme was of progress. If you talk to the group that I was with when I started off, their idea of progress was moving backwards slowly. It was kind of like, we're never going to win, but we'd like to prolong death. Yeah, so you know, we know that. So what we're just going to do is we're just going to try to hang on, hold the fort. That was kind of their theme. And I realized that's not an environment that that's conducive for my growth. So in my 20s, I literally sat down and I said, okay, let's figure this out, Maxwell. And I began to write out what I thought a growth environment would be, a good one. And what's very interesting about this is I did this, so this would have been over 40 years ago. I've never changed one word on what I wrote, which is highly unusual. I mean, usually if I wrote something yesterday, I'm changing it again today because it's not quite. But it just seemed like as a kid, I figured it out, and I figured it out really well. So I'm going to give it to you right now. A growth environment is a place, and everything's going to start with that. A growth environment is a place where, okay? So you don't have to keep writing those words. A growth environment is a place where, number one, others are ahead of me. If I'm going to be in a growth environment, one thing that's essential is I have to have people ahead of me. I can't be first. In fact, I'm going to say to you, if you're at the head of the class, you're in the wrong class. Get out of it as quickly as you can. It does no good to be number one. Trust me, I've been number one a lot in my life. And as soon as I'm number one, I got to figure out a way to get down the ladder. I got to get, because to be number, because once you're number one, you start now, everybody's asking you questions and you're starting to tell people how to do it. And the moment you start teaching is the day you stop learning. And I got a whole bunch of people that are highly successful when they're teaching, and they've lost their success. They're better at teaching than they are living it, because they've just done it and they've done it. And so now they're a great teacher. They're just a terrible liver. And so if you're at the head of the class, I think you're in the wrong class. And what I mean by that is just very simple. You have got to expose yourself to people bigger, better, faster, smarter than you. You have got, and by the way, the better you get, the harder this is to do. Because the people that want to put you on pedestals and all this other stuff that is ridiculous, and you just keep saying no, 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 and you keep running to people that are ahead of you. I did a conference recently for a major physical fitness organization, and I was doing leadership for them all day, and they were going to do their exercises like at 6 in the morning. And so I said, well, can I join you? I'd like to come. And they said, sure, we'd love to have you come. Well, now you got to understand, there are about like 120 of them. They were all leaders, and they are all buff. I mean, they just look good. I mean, they just look good. And here comes the beach whale, who's not only the beach whale, but I'm older than every one of them in there. I mean, they're young, they're in their 20s and 30s. I'm in there, and I had so much fun. I mean, I was the worst. In fact, when you talk about the bottom of the class, I just knocked out the bottom. They just basically said, we don't even have a bottom now that you're here. It's just like, bottomless, where you're down there somewhere. And for an hour and 15 minutes, I'd just exercise with them. And I mean, hey, they'd bring me water, they'd bring me a towel, you know what I mean? And, you know, is there a doctor in the house, you know what I mean? And I loved every moment. And they were all better than me. They were all better than me, quicker, faster, smarter, better condition, everything. I was at the bottom of the class, and I had so much fun. I had a lot of fun because they all knew I was at the bottom of the class. I knew I was at the bottom of the class. It's kind of nice to be at the bottom of the class and to understand that there are people that are quicker, faster, better, smarter than you. This is very healthy because 2 hours later, I'm teaching them leadership. And I just turned that completely over. And I'm at the top of the class. And I just shared with them that the bottom of the class is where you do your learning. The top of the class is where you do your talking. And when you're talking, you're not learning. So you just want to get in an environment where everybody is ahead of you. Number two, a growth environment is a place where you're continually challenged. In other words, every day you get up and there's a mountain in front of you. And you got to climb the mountain. And it's not been there, done that. It's not easy. It's not, oh my gosh, you know, I got this down. There's a mountain. And what I've discovered is that when you become very successful, you just got to go. What I tell successful people all the time is run to the mountains. Just go run to the mountains. Make a beeline for the mountains. Because once you're good, it's awfully difficult to want to go to another mountain. But you got to have something in front of you that's big, challenging. You should wake up. Here's what I believe. You should wake up every morning with a gulp. Like, I got this in front of me. You know, most people, they don't wake up with a gulp. They wake up with a yawn. And can I tell you something? If you're going to wake up with a yawn, let me tell you something. If you wake up with a yawn, I've got a question to ask you. Why do you wake up? Just stay in bed.
I don't have chargers.
Sleep longer. It ain't going to be any good.
I don't know.
Yeah, just go ahead and sleep. Nobody's going to miss you.
It's unique.
You're not going to miss anybody.
Okay.
Just yawn. You got to have a goal. I didn't set the alarm this morning. I'm up at 4. I got to teach material to you. I got to teach material to you, some of I've never taught before. And I cannot come into this session not ready for you. What could there be anything more discourteous and more dishonoring to you than to have a teacher not prepared for you? You deserve my best. Some of you have traveled a long way to get here, and you don't deserve somebody that has a great reputation. You deserve somebody that can deliver. You deserve somebody that when they look at you, they can look at you with integrity and say, I'm giving you the best I got. It may not be really good, but it's the best I got. And I'm giving it to you. And so, yeah, I'm up at 4 o'clock this morning. Now, you say, well, did you have to get up before? No, I can walk in and live off of yesterday if I want to. But if you live off of yesterday, you die today. You don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. And I've just got to be constantly, continually challenged in life. I've got to have something to stretch today. You got to have something that wakes you up. You got to have something that you look at and say, if I don't get up at 4 this morning and read this stuff one more time and redo it and tweak it some, if I don't get up and get this stuff ready, I'm not going to deliver my best. And let me tell you something. What I'm living for today is to teach my best to you while you're here. But what I'm really living for is when you're gone this evening, and I have to live with myself, I can pat myself on the back and say, good job, John. You delivered. You delivered. Life can become very hollow when we start skimming and winging it. And yet I see so many people, that's what they do. You got to get a mountain in front of you. You got to be challenged. Number 3, a growth environment is a place where my focus it's forward. It's forward. It really is. It's forward. I'm looking to tomorrow. You see, the problem with people that are 69 is a bunch of their focus is backwards. They're talking about the good old days. I just went to my 50th, high school reunion a year ago last summer, and let me tell you something. It was a very depressing thing. I kid you not, honest to God, I graduated with a bunch of old people. Talking about yesterday. I discovered a long time ago, the good old days really weren't that good. You just don't have any memory. Isn't that right? So you just kind of think they're better than what they really were. But you want the focus to be forward. I get to play in the AT&T Pro-Am every year, and that's kind of a lot of fun for me. And I play with, of course, professional golfers, so that's just a humiliating experience. I mean, yeah, and what I've discovered is, I've played now 4 straight years in the AT&T Pro-Am, and not one time has a professional golfer asked me to help them line up a putt. Not one time. Not one time they say, "Oh, John, come over here, Brian. It seems." What do you think? I think there's not one time. You know what I learned a long time ago? Yeah, what I learned through that is, when you're average, people don't ask for your advice. Why the heck do you need advice from somebody that's average? They never asked me to line up a putt for them. But I want. So anyway, one of the guys I played golf with twice. In fact, we got into the playoffs a couple of years ago and ended up 9th out of 155 teams and on TV on Sunday. Oh my gosh, that was so much fun. And we were having dinner one night. It was Richard Lee, and I asked. I was going around the table. I love to ask questions. Asking, what's the best advice you ever received? And when it came Richard's time, the professional golfer, he said, "My mother-in-law told me to welcome the ball." I said, what do you mean by welcome the ball? He said, well, every day I'm on the golf course hitting golf balls, playing in tournaments. And sometimes when you hit a golf ball, it ends up in a trap. It ends up in rough. It's not good. You follow me? And he said, my mother-in-law told me, no matter where you find your golf ball, welcome it. Because if you say, I'm glad to see you here, you'll hit a better shot. Then why did I get here? Welcome the ball. I thought, so good. So good. Focus is forward. Not the bad shot I made, the next shot that I'm going to make. A growth environment is a place where the atmosphere is affirming. And when I say affirming, understand, I'm talking about going back to that thought, bringing the best out of you. That's an affirming environment. I am not talking about hypey. Okay? Hypey gets to me. I don't really like to be around hypey people very much. It's not how high you jump that matters in life. It's how straight you walk when you come down. And I'm much more interested in what you're going to do when you go home more than how much you're going to dance with the band playing right now. When you get done, you got to go home and you got to go do something. What I want to tell people when they get real hypey is, do you realize this is hard work? I just want to deflate them. Just take the air out, let the gas out. Got way too much gas running around. You know what I'm saying? Just kind of put the air out of the balloon. You got to go home. Can I tell you, it may be fun to jump up and down here, but when you go home, it's hard work. And the band's not going to be playing, and nobody's going to be talking to you about how wonderful you are, and you're not getting to walk across stage and have a bunch of people applaud. The people really don't give a rip. My name's John, and I'm your friend. Huh? I'm a friend. Yeah, just believe. And then a growth environment is a place where you're out of your comfort zone. You never want to be out of your gift zone. If you get out of your gift zone, you're in really trouble because you're not any good out of your gift zone. Okay, so you got to stay in your gift zone, but you got to get out of your comfort zone. A growth environment, number 6, is a place where you wake up excited. You just can hardly wait for the day to begin. And you're just absolutely enjoying what you're doing, and you're loving it, and you can hardly. In fact, I can promise you, at 4 I got up to kind of get ready for you. About 6 I was ready to call all of you and say, let's get started. I'm ready. You know what I'm saying? Let's gather together. I can hardly wait. And it's just a whole issue of, I love what I do. And people say, well, John, I think you ought to retire. You're old. And I said, no, you see, because unless I miss it, retirement, when you retire, you get to do whatever you want to do. Isn't that the key of retirement? If you don't have to, you just get to do whatever you want to do. And so when I realized that was retirement, I thought, well, shoot, I'm already retired. I'm getting to do what I want to do. This is what I want to do. I want to be with you today. I want to teach. I want to help you. I want to get you better. It's kind of like, wow, I didn't have a clue. I'm retired and didn't know it. Huh? A growth environment number 7 is a place where failure is not your enemy. That you're not getting beat up all the time by the fact that you've not made it or you've missed it or it didn't work out very well. I'll talk more in other laws about failure. I'll come back to it because it's just such an incredible experience. But I will tell you, most people do not have a healthy perspective of failure. They have a very unhealthy perspective, and they fear it, and they let it dominate them, and they let it dominate their thinking, they let it dominate their actions. And I promise you, in leadership, I love to talk to my people about failure. One of my favorite subjects is to talk about failure. Love to talk. Oh my gosh, going to get to talk about failure today. Yes, love it. Because your people have heard success so much, they're gagging on it. And when you put success in front of people in an unrealistic way that a lot of people do, they'll never measure up. And so what do? They leave your organization because they said, I'm just not as good as them. My gosh, they were always good. And you weren't always good. You weren't always good at all. You've been really bad. The problem is you don't tell people about bad. You just tell people about good, which makes you a hypocrite, an unhealthy hypocrite. A growth environment number 8 is a place where other people are growing. You know you're in a growth environment when everybody else is running the same race. Let me tell you something. If you're in your organization, you're the Lone Ranger, ain't nobody else in the game, you're not in a growth environment, huh? It's just more fun to do it together, isn't it? And everybody else is growing. Number 9, it's a growth environment is a place where people desire change. They truly understand the value of changing so that they can get better. And then number 10, a growth environment is a place where growth is modeled for you. It's expected of you. In other words, it's something that you know that the people that you respect and admire and that lead really expect that out of you. They expect you to get better. They expect that. They expect that out of themselves. I've had the privilege every once in a while, I don't get to do this often, but every once in a while we'll do a little development or training for a group of people, kind of intense for a year and a half, maybe 2 years. And recently we did this with an organization, and I kind of felt inspired to just kind of send a letter out to them, kind of like the day before we got started. And I'm going to read it to you because I think it just kind of fits the growth environment. Friends, for 40 years, I have led people through growth programs similar to the one that you begin tonight. I congratulate you on choosing to invest in yourselves, which will roll over into many other lives. And here are the lessons that I've learned over the years that will help you maximize your investment. Number 1, no shortcuts. You only cheat yourself and everyone you're leading when you take shortcuts. Number 2, in every exercise, use ACT. That's something I teach. Apply, change, train, or teach. Everything you ask, how do I apply it to my life? What do I need to make the changes in my life? Who do I teach this to? I said number 3, think long term. This is not a quick fix endeavor. Leaders develop daily, not in a day. Number 4, think beyond yourself. Your goal is to get better so that you can help your team get better. If you want to add, do it yourself. If you want to multiply, take others with you. Number 5, have fun. I define growth as happiness. My team promises to give you what you need to help you become what you want to be. We are 100% with you, no excuses. Together we can make a difference. This is your chance to do something that will be a strong inspiration to thousands of people. Get ready to be in the story. In fact, you are the story. your friend, John. That's what a growth environment feels like. That's what a growth environment looks like.
That was good. That good or what? Some quick key takeaways that I just wanted to share on top of that. And if you have, any questions or ahas, please feel free. In the beginning, he talked about, some things that need to change, right? All throughout it, he actually talked about some things that need to change. I think Jim Rohn was the one that said, we are the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. The average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. When I look back to the journey, there's a lot of people that that I just, wasn't able to continue to be around in order to get where I was going. So think about that. Are people that you are spending time with, are they good for you? Are they encouraging you? Are they in your corner? Or are they, dream stealers? And if they are, you might need to make some change there. I have listened to this teaching probably at least a half a dozen times. But I've learned that repetition helps me. I've got down different notes today than I did the first time because I'm at a different level of awareness. He said, read great books. In the last 6 years, I've read more books than I probably have ever read in my entire life, 53 years old. Very key point. Talk about priority management and your success is tied to your daily agenda. Nourish yourself. Do that daily. What are you filling up on? What are you filling up on? How are you starting your day? Are you getting filled? What are you watching? What are you putting in? That all speaks to the environment, right? You have to constantly motivate yourself consistently. That's a process, right? And I've developed this habit on a daily basis of taking in. You cannot give what you do not have. I want to be able to give. What do you want to be able to give? Well, you got to get filled with that. And that's become a daily habit, one of the most important habits. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. If you want to do 5 million, we're all at different places here, so don't compare yourself. But if you want to do 5 million, you want to do 10 million, it's going to be a little bit uncomfortable. You're going to have to do some things that you may not have done before. But it's also important that you're around the right environment to be able to help you get there. I love welcome the ball. How many times do we get up in the morning and we have an expectation of how you want the day to be, and then you're thrown a curveball? You heard me say it. It's not what happens. It's about how you learn how to respond to it. You got to welcome the ball wherever it's at, right? Your attitude is key there. I find if you can remain in a positive attitude and look at, okay, I'm here. What do I need to do to continue on to move forward? And my attitude is going to be very key in how I move forward when things don't go the way that you want them to go. And the last thing, two things: apply, change, teach. I said in the beginning, this is a lot of knowledge, and I took in a lot of knowledge for the first 15 years of real estate. I was just getting a lot of knowledge. But in order to go to the next level, I had to change. There are certain things in my life that didn't fit. They had to change. And now I find myself teaching. I didn't sign up for this. Like, this wasn't in part of my plan 6 years ago. It wasn't something that I ever even had a desire about. But I started learning that it was something that I did like, something that I became a little bit more passionate about. And ultimately, I love helping people. I love helping people become the best versions of themselves. That's a change, right? That all happened through this process. And the last thing is taking others with you. You know, one of the most frustrating things for me early on in this process was, as I was getting information, you know, I'd go to an event and I'd come back and I'd have an argument with Lou and Lori because I'm like throwing up all over them, right? Like, and I want them to get what I'm getting, right? But that was part of the process. You know, you want to, when something is good and you see it's working and you're getting good results, you want that for others. And in the book, and I'll close with this because I know it's 11 o'clock, but I always love to get you guys out on time. But if you have any questions or ahas, or you want to, you know, stay on a little longer, we're good with that. What I love, and he says in the book here, right at the end, I always try to do something during the exit interviews with people as they move from an organization. Tell them you're leaving an environment where growth is a priority. People are encouraged and expected to develop. And I feel like that's what we've created. I really feel like that's what we've created here. And I believe wholeheartedly that the more you invest in yourself, your growth, the results will speak for themselves in your business. And Morgan, I'll close with that song we were talking about. I'm living proof, right? Like when you apply these things in your life, things start to change and you start to get the results that you're looking for in your business. And you may not see it as it's happening, but I encourage you just to continue to move forward, you know, and do these things daily. You know, pick up these types of habits and put them in your daily agenda because they make a big difference in your business. So 11:02. Any ahas? Did you guys enjoy this training? Any questions?
Yes.
I was just going to say I'm in my car, but I pulled over just to listen. This is Sean Marie, and take notes and everything. But I was just going to say, you know, we grew up, not so much when I grew up in the 70s and 80s, but as time went on, it was always about being number one. And one thing that I've learned since I've been trying to grow is that, you know, you do want people ahead of you and, you know, the ones behind you, you know, so that you can help. So that was just like really reaffirming for me because, you know, you're in our culture is you're taught you have to do better so that you can, you know, you can be number one. And, you know, you always have to be the best, you know, and everything like that. So, you know, it kind of makes you have to rethink about that, you know, like I don't have to be number one or I don't have to, you know, compete with somebody to move them out of that spot. That was really, really good for me.
Mm-hmm.
So you and you deal, you know, you can become the best version of yourself and that can be number one for you. Thank you, Sean Marie. Anybody else? Did I see somebody else say something? Applications, takeaways. Anybody going to do anything different as a result of today's training?
He definitely gave confirmation to things that I've already started applying. So to hear it reiterated was it was really good. I appreciated it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being with us today, Emerald.
And I'll say something real quick too. For me, I had to get reminded the lesson of welcoming the ball, because I relate that to a lot, not just in life circumstances, but in real estate and what we do every day. I mean, Dad, just a couple of days, I ran into a very big septic situation, an on-site septic situation or a home inspection. Something came up that you don't want to deal with, or, you still have to welcome the ball in those situations that we're in our business too, because you do handle them better and you talk to the co-op more appropriately and professionally. So that welcome the ball was just a great reminder, because it's so easy to get upset when you get thrown a curveball or you hit a shot and you landed somewhere you don't want to land. So just welcome the ball and the outcome will be better if you do that.
Yeah. For those that may not be aware, so there was a situation, septic was agreed upon, then the septic system that was going to get installed, buyer didn't want that type of septic system, and then there's 2 transactions as a result of this. And in the past, it's like, oh man, you look at it, like the whole thing's going to fall apart. But when you ask questions and you got somebody on the other end that is willing to work to try and get things done, the attitude in which you approach that situation has a direct result on the outcome. And Marcus and I worked through that, asked a few questions, made sure that the buyers were being represented and making sure that they got what they wanted, but also, asking the other side questions that make sure that it was going to be able to, everybody was going to be happy and create a win-win. But it started with, the attitude, we got to protect the buyer's interest, got to make sure we take care, serve the client, and through that, we got a good outcome. Good stuff. Thanks for sharing, Marcus. Anybody else? All righty. Well, thank you guys for your time today. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Go forth.
Thank you, Mike.
Multiply.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Have a good
Thank
day,
you.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Have a good one.